Hi, I'm Sean, aka Wizard. Beer has always been a passion for me, from collecting cans as a kid, tasting the great flavors of craft beer as I got old enough, and eventually becoming head brewer. We're very lucky here in the state of Florida to have one of the most vibrant craft beer scenes in the country, and we're going to bring it right to you. So come on the journey with us. Maybe you'll learn some things, and maybe you'll even have a laugh. And of course, it'll be even more fun if we have a few brews with us. The brews, the brewers, and the beer culture. This is Drinking with Wizard. Cheers to you. We're at the OG, the original Dunedin Brewery, where it all started. And where it all started for us too. This was our first show here too. So we're going to go in, we're going to talk to Michael Lynn about the brewery. We're going to find out a lot of interesting things out about the brewery, why they've been able to stay this long, and all the things they got planned for the future. So let's go in, let's talk to Michael Lynn. This is going to be an amazing show. Okay, now we're back inside Dunedin Brewery, and we're here with Michael Lynn. What would you call yourself, as the proprietor, CFO, chief operating manager,
jack of all trades,
wizard extraordinaire?
I would say main operator.
Main operator.
Yeah, I'm the VP of the company. My father started it, founded it, and I'm second generation operator.
Okay.
It's not fully mine. He still owns it, but he lets me pretty much pull the reins wherever I want to pull them.
So he's over time, and then his father, Michael N. Correct, Brian.
Yep.
So
Michael Norman.
Michael Norman, and Michael Lynn, Brian. And it really is a family business, because over the time that I've come here, your whole family has been involved in some way or another the entire time. Your mother, Candy,
my sisters, Talia, Tracy,
and Tracy.
Yeah.
So this is truly an American family business, and it just happens to be a brewery too. So
which is the best kind.
Of course.
Unless you really want a lot of money, but if you like everything else other than money, this is the one.
So you're kind of, like we talked about, you've taken over the reins, but your father has been the ultimate catalyst for this place's existence, and he developed this place in 1996. Okay, so it's the oldest. This is the OG, like I said outside. This is the OG of continuous operating microbreweries in the state of Florida. From 1996 till today, nobody's done it that long and that, I will say, that good.
Well, I'll say there's people before us and there's been plenty of people after us, which is great because we've seen the whole craft beer thing. But anybody that was around before us in this format just didn't make it this long.
Right. Which is, the fortitude is kind of what I want to get to at some point, is that how you've helped forge the way for many other breweries that are in existence now. I mean, I lost count of how many are even in Pinellas County, let alone Tampa Bay and the state of Florida. So, I mean, we're talking a lot of breweries. And you've been around for a long time before anybody else really stuck. They may have been here, like you said, some came and went, but right. I mean, you kind of, what I like about Dunedin Brewery is that Dunedin Brewery kind of forged the way and kept true to the principles and the process of a microbrewery and stayed true to it. There may have been, I'm sure there were hardships and it wasn't easy going because you're going upstream by yourself. But then other people came along. So I want to talk about how those periods of time when you're on your own, and then how other breweries developed as a result of you staying the course, and how you guys as a beer community helped them develop, and why you would do that.
Well, I mean, why we would do it, I'm not sure, but I think that the biggest thing is just the concept that, more is better. As craft beer lovers ourselves and craftsmen, we don't just, like we were just saying, you don't want to just have the thing that you made in front of you every time. I want to know what you have to say about it. I want to see what you have to say about beer in your glass, so I can taste that. That same thing is what drove us in the first place, but it's also what drives the helpfulness.
Right.
So my father has helped numerous breweries. He helped found the Dunedin Brewers Guild, the Florida Brewers Guild, which is now a statewide run guild with hundreds of members. On top of that, has helped numerous breweries, even just around the corner from us, like Seven Sun, get their permitting, help them navigate permitting and build outs and things like that. He didn't always help them directly with their construction because that's his main trade.
Right.
They might have done some build out themselves, like at Seven Sun, they built their own brewery. My dad helped pull all their permits though for them and allowed them to do all the work.
Right.
Instead of hiring out a sub. So he kind of became a proxy for their licensing. He took on risk to help them,
right?
And he did that with Rat Brewing. He did that with Paradise. He's helped out Barley Mow, Tampa Bay Brew Co. when they first started. There's numerous breweries that we've helped out, and really the core to that is just the rising tide floats all boats is the metaphor that people use.
Yeah.
And my dad has never stopped saying that since before there was even Seven Sun in town.
Right. That's awesome. So cheers to that, and cheers to the collective, and cheers to the community.
The more the merrier.
Community, the more the merrier. So your father kind of started the business back in '96, but obviously he had to get the bug of craft beer prior to that. To start open a brewery out of the whim. Yeah. So he's got to get it in his veins at some point. So where did he get inspired to be a craft brewer?
I mean, it's a multi-pronged story, but the main thing is his brother, my uncle, encouraged him to continue brewing because when he was very young, I think in his 20s, he brewed a batch of wine and he thought it was poison and ended up putting it in the back of the closet. And I think it was 5 years later, my uncle came to him and said, "Michael, when are you going to make some more of that wine?" And my dad said, "Wine? What wine are you talking about?" That wine that I found in the back of the closet, me and my buddies just, finished it off. It was great. You gotta make some more. And my dad said, "You drank that?" And it turned out he didn't kill him because he just didn't know enough about fermentation, to know.
Too young.
Yeah, he was just too young. So that started him on the path. But when he got into home brewing, he founded with numerous other guys, he founded the Dunedin Homebrew Guild.
Okay.
With KK and Voodoo and Kathy Schultz and Terry Cayley and a few other people. And that kind of that nest egg really encouraged it. So like having, friends to hang out with and to do something was really the catalyst.
Right.
And when he started the brewery, it was really just him wanting to brew so much that he could share it with his friends, and he found out he had to get a license to do that.
Right.
He didn't want to go into the business of brewing.
He didn't necessarily want to sell it,
just
but he
wanted
wanted
to
to
brew
get to
beer.
a volume and then
share
that
it,
volume was too high to go.
And
Because,
so,
hey, the Brewers Guild could drink. I'm just going to tell
well,
you.
they were definitely drinking a lot. So when he signed the form and he was getting his brewing license, they said, okay, who's your distributor? He said, what are you talking about? And so we've had to learn every single thing along the way, because we didn't come into it thinking of it as a business. We thought of it as a hobby. We always call it a hobby out of control, because it started in the kitchen, then it took over the garage, then it took over the rest of our money as a family. But no, jokes aside though, that is really how it happened. It's just, it was a hobby and he enjoyed it, and he thinks beer is something that is fun and should taste good.
Right. And it's obviously special. It's near and dear to your family, and it's your whole family life is since that day has revolved around beer and the brewery. So
beer,
again,
fun, and creativity.
Exactly. So beer does have magical gravitation to it. To me, that's why it's part of why I'm doing the show. So how did he get you involved in this whole stinking process?
Did you rope me in?
Exactly.
No, I actually, when growing up, did not like the taste of beer. My dad would try it, like even underage, he'd be like, here, at least try a little, taste a little sample. And I was like, well,
I don't think any kid really likes the taste
and my
of beer.
first drinks were Smirnoff Ice and nasty things like that. I didn't
no wonder you don't like the
drink
taste
for
of
flavor.
stuff. Like, geez, yeah.
But what really got me into it, I worked in the brewery, and of course, came of age while working here in the brewery, and me and my friends would come and drink beer. But what we would do is we would actually mix something in a pitcher from everything on tap, and then squeeze a half of an orange on it.
Oh, interesting.
And nowadays they call that craft beer.
Yeah.
But just jokes aside. Jokes aside.
Thank God I wasn't drinking, because that would have been Matt's spit take for sure.
Jokes aside, though, it was delicious, and ultimately,
I think they call it a suicide. Don't they?
We called it the
with an
suicide.
orange.
We called it the citrus suicide slam.
Yeah.
Because it was easy to drink and it was tasty. But I think the core of it is the creativity. Like we would just come in here, we didn't like it, but we turned it into something that we liked. And I think that is craft beer right there. It's like,
for sure.
you don't like every beer that you drink, but when you stumble upon one that you do, you want to repeat it. And so when I found out about craft beer, it really came down to this idea that there was something different, and that it wasn't what I thought it was.
And it could be what you wanted it to be.
Yeah,
and that's
indeed.
the true story of craft too, is that
100%.
just if you're out there drinking beer, and all you craft drinkers out there, you have people that don't drink craft beer. I had a buddy that I kept trying to force him to drink IPAs, and he was a Coors Light person. So eventually, I stumbled upon giving him a Belgian one day, as Joey. I gave him a Belgian, and he went completely crazy. Now he's got the Weyerbacher, the Weyerbacher tattoo of the jester on his arm. He's got
wild.
completely into craft beer based on a different style, a different taste. So
Indeed.
there is a style, there is a taste for every single person. It's just a matter of finding it. You might have to mix a couple together and squeeze some oranges on it.
You might have to do blasphemy according to other traditional craft beer drinkers or brewers, and that's okay, because I don't agree with everything that all brewers do.
That's true.
But they're still brewers, and they're still getting away with creativity and
Right,
doing something
and
that they love, not what other people
That
want
is true.
them to do.
And there may be a beer out there that isn't even made yet, because brewers are doing something so different anymore that the beer that you love isn't even been made yet. Some brewer is going to make a beer that's going to rock your world out of ingredients you never thought of. So, cheers to that. Cheers to creativity and ingenuity. Cheers to you. This is the brew house and the fermenters and all of that. So you want to go through what size system you have and what you started with, sort of, and where you're at now?
Yeah, so right behind us is a 14-barrel system, but we can get 20 barrels out of it. So when we do double batches, our capacity is 40 barrels.
Okay.
But mainly we do 14-barrel batches. We can split that off into 2 7s and use 2 different yeasts if we want to. But we've had the same system since 2001, but the system is actually from the 80s originally. The original Dunedin Brewery system was a 7-barrel system, which is now on a trailer.
I saw that.
So
we used
that,
to use that.
We
Traveling.
sometimes bring it in the back if we want to do like a test batch or something like that. But right now it's just mainly a showpiece.
Right. As a sidebar for the original system, They put it on a trailer, and then you take it across country and
we
brew
drove
it a couple places?
Yeah, we drove it about 10,000 miles. We drove it across the country to Oregon Brewers Festival, and then down the entire West Coast, and then back across the states.
Thank God gas prices were a little cheaper then.
And we brewed out in Denver, Colorado on the way back.
Right.
Yeah.
That was an amazing journey.
It was a wild.
The things you can do with beer, it's amazing.
Yeah. We called it the Floregon Trail.
The Floregon Trail. That's awesome. So obviously you started with the he started with a 7. Your father started with a 7 here.
Yep. That was at the other location. So just about 2 miles north of here at the old location on Spalding Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't even familiar.
Wasn't
with
in
that
downtown, but in 2001 is when we built this building and moved downtown.
Okay. So from '96 to 2001, you're at the other location on Spalding Road.
Yep. Yeah. Small little place, not open to the public, no bar, nothing. It was just you could show up and get a tour if somebody was there.
Okay.
It was very small.
You could taste and sample the beer.
You could sample the beers there, yeah. But if you were to buy beer, we didn't sell any beer at the actual brewery. You'd have to go down to Skip's Bar and Grill or World of Beer, the package shop, before it was a big bar chain. Or we were back in Publix back in the days.
So interestingly, you almost did it reverse of what some other breweries these days are doing. A lot of breweries now start as a small brew pub and build into distribution. And you started with distribution at some levels and then came into the brew pub.
Pretty much, yeah. We added food and stuff like that after the fact. But I think that it was a smart move because it just kind of circles the wagons on everything surrounding beer.
Right.
You don't want to have good beer without making sure you're, not hungry.
Right, for sure.
Good food goes a long way with it.
What's your favorite beer here?
My favorite beer here right now is the Air.
Air. Okay. Why is that?
It's a practical beer.
Yeah.
So you drink a lot of beer in your life. You work at a brewery. You need something that's not going to get you schnockered every day.
Maybe he drinks a lot of beer in his life.
I know.
Okay, maybe I do.
I prefer the lighter stuff nowadays, but if I'm, just coming out on a Friday night and I'm actually just enjoying some beer with my dinner, I'll drink the 7 Point Special, which is an IPA brewed with hemp.
Okay.
So it's just, I'm still an IPA hophead at the, heart. I like my sours, my Berliner Weisses, and I like traditional styles, like traditional ales and stuff like that. So, Dunedin Brewery, we do our red ale, brown ale. We do a lot of classical American styles that we've always done for 25 years now.
So what was the first beer that what were the first 2 or 3 styles that were put out at the original location?
At the original location, the very first beer was an Imperial Brown Ale.
Wow.
It was meant to be just a regular brown ale, and they didn't do the conversion math right.
Oops.
And so they extracted quite a bit more sugar and ended up with an Imperial Brown Ale.
Bonus.
And it went on tap down at Skip's Bar and Grill downtown.
They probably loved it.
They didn't order it again because everybody had too much, they were not making very much money on it. On a really good time.
So 2 beers and they were done.
Yeah, but the Piper's Pale Ale, and the Redhead Red would be the first 3.
So one of my favorites, one of my Wizard's picks for this place, as you know from the first episode that we did here, is the apricot peach. Now there's a whole story about that if you see the first show. So when did you start making the apricot peach?
So the apricot peach, it's an interesting story. My dad made the apricot peach as it was just the peach wheat ale, and it was brewed for a summer seasonal back in 1997. And it was the most popular beer he had ever made. It just flew off the shelves. The distributor that we had at the time said you have to make more of that. And back then it was blasphemy to really put fruit in your beer.
Of course.
And so my dad was kind of like, I don't know about this, but ended up turning it into a year-round beer. But of course, peaches became more expensive over time, and so the recipe changed to include apricots. And so it's changed over the years since that original time. But then last year, for our 25th anniversary, we actually rebrewed the original peach wheat.
That's fantastic. That's great.
And it's our most popular beer still.
For sure. It's, again, one of my faves here. So I have a couple, but this one's always near and dear to my heart. So that's what got me, literally, just not to rehash everything, but it's what got me to actually come over to Dunedin.
Really? That's a destination beer.
Exactly. This is the whole point of what beer does, and this is the point I wanted to do the show too. Is beer has magical influence on people.
Yeah.
I was living in West Chase, and I tasted this beer. It was in a bottle somewhere. I'm like, I gotta find it. Came over, music scene, great beers. Never went back.
Oh yeah.
I moved within 2 weeks.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Yeah. Cheers to you. Something which really cool to me was that you started a little bit of distribution and went back into brew pub. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, that is a unique concept, but kind of important. So what's your take on all of that?
Well, so we do self-distribute. We've been through 2 distributors before that, and we've had problems because if you don't have anybody that cares about your product like it's their own product, they're not going to handle it like it's their own product. So,
for sure.
Long story short, we've pulled away from the bigger houses of wholesale, and we started our own self-distributorship.
Right.
But I would say the biggest core is this place right here. You can only make pennies on a case if you sell it in distribution, and how many beers are there on a shelf?
Right.
But if you come into your own spot and you've got a location like this, then you have every opportunity to sell your product to everybody that walks in this location.
Right. And the margin's much better.
Yeah, I think real estate is a little more important to use for that than to just have a bunch of kegs.
And you can control the quality much better than somebody that's... Are they handling your kegs, and they're handling your bottles, and they're handling your cans at the proper temperature and all that?
100%.
So, your reputation is on the line with people, like you said, that don't really care about your business model. It's just another beer to them. So, yeah, you fall into the pit sometimes with that.
To tell you a little bit of an idea of how little they care about your brand as a small brewer is, we went out and had our own salesman that we paid to go out and find accounts when we were with a larger wholesaler. And we happened to get the original Hooters in downtown Clearwater.
Wow, okay.
And I mean, we were very impressed with our salesman work. We were like, this is amazing. We got our apricot peach in the original Hooters. Well, it turns out that we took a Sam Adams cider line from Angry Orchard from the same wholesaler. And you'd think they would be just as happy to have just another product on there.
Of theirs, right.
They discontinued our contract from that point forward and said we were released. So, are they really looking out for you, or are they looking out for the bigger guys?
Cheers to that. Honesty and direct, that's the way it is. And that's sometimes how the beer business works. So you got to protect your own, take care of your own, and where better to do it than you.
Yeah, make sure you know the people you're working with, and make sure that you love them and that they actually care about you too.
Yep.
So
cheers to that. Cheers to you. Yeah, so a big part of the culture here obviously is the music scene. So
100%.
I've been coming here for longer than I can remember, as we talked about earlier.
As long as I've been booking here, I believe.
I know, for sure, easy. And the music's always been amazing, so it's a really integral part of this place, along with the beer and the food. So I really wanted to give you a chance to, and you're really into the music
100%.
scene. So let's talk a little bit about that. So back in the day, probably your dad was doing a lot of the bookings for like when Seven Nations and some of those bands used to come?
He would bring, so we started with just a tiny bar in here, and it was just a little like roll around bar with I think 6, maybe probably didn't even fit 6 kegs in it, probably 4 whole half barrels. And they would have bands on Friday nights only, and my dad would bring in like local artists to do that.
Right.
And then he started bringing in Seven Nations and a couple other, ticketed events, and then the manager before me, Travis, started picking up on that. And so, because it was part of Travis's job, when he left the company and I took his position, I had to kind of pick that up. And while I played music, I'd never really booked shows before for a place, and so I had to learn it from the, basically just looking at the old calendar and rebooking some people.
Which can be kind of overwhelming if you're just getting into the music scene.
Yeah, but it's evolved obviously since those Friday nights that my dad booked a band.
For sure. I mean, how often is there music live now?
Pre-pandemic, it was pretty much every night of the week there was entertainment. Now we're still kind of getting back because I'd bring in a lot of touring musicians.
Yes.
And a lot of touring musicians are unfortunately having a hard time getting on the road again.
Yeah.
So we've got to reconfigure and bring in more local artists, but I try to just go off of taste and, danceability. So talent and danceability, because I want people like musicians and artists to be into the music.
Okay, so we talked a lot about your involvement in the music scene and bringing music here, but I know you're into music yourself now, so I'm going to throw a curveball at you real quick before we get into that, but what was the first song you ever played and when was it?
First song I ever played?
Yeah.
Probably Amazing Grace. Learned it on bagpipes, so, once you learn
That
bagpipes,
is
you have to
amazing.
learn something else. Yeah, it's amazing, and there's some grace to it. But you have to learn something else after bagpipes because bagpipes are pretty limited.
Yeah, you're pretty limited.
So I learned guitar after
you
that.
You could get a gig around Dunedin anytime you want, but outside
For
of
sure.
Dunedin, you're very limited.
Yeah, I played in the middle school bagpipe band, high school band, the
That's like
city
playing
pipe band.
That's like playing the pan flute. Like, there's not much,
I don't know. I bet you those guys get some gigs these days.
Zamfir, baby, Zamfir.
Cheers to the pan
Cheers to
flutists
the
out
pan
there.
flute. Rock on, brothers. Okay, so progressing from the bagpipe, obviously you learned some other instruments. So I know you've gotten really big into the music scene yourself and your own band. So kind of explain some of what you're doing now. And
Well, with a lot of stuff I do, it's filling the gaps in the calendar is really what I started doing. So if I don't have a band on a Friday night, I still got to entertain my crowd. And so I started enlisting my friends, and we would just improvise.
that's awesome.
Get up here and play 2 sets, make up music, kind of like we're in a garage band, and hope for the best. And
That's kind of ingenious.
yeah, luckily it works out pretty well.
It's to ingenuity. That's amazing.
You just got to work on your feet all the time.
Yeah.
So in that spirit of improv and improvisation, I pretty much just try to just play it by ear.
Right.
It's really the whole thing.
Right.
Even with booking the bands or anything, but all my music projects are pretty much just playing it by ear. We do write some music here and there, but a lot of it is just listening to each other and making up music on the spot. And that right there works in the whole Dunedin Brewery kind of facet.
For sure.
Because it helps me practically, so if I don't have a band on a certain night, I'm not too worried about that. I don't have to go and struggle to find somebody to fill that gap.
Right.
Instead, me and my friends can hang out and drink some beer on a Friday night, make some music.
It's like being in a garage, but you're actually in the roll-ups of the Dunedin Brewery.
Yeah, we're pretty much in a garage,
band.
but it's my dad's garage where he's brewing beer.
Exactly.
And
he doesn't tell you to turn it down. Right?
No, he doesn't. He says turn it up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the best of both worlds.
Oh, yeah.
And it's neat how it comes back around. Okay, so from bagpipes to improvisational music. So what's the next step for you? Where's your musical progression go in the future?
My music progresses in the same way that everything in my life progresses, which is pretty much just making it up as we go along. So I think the next phase would be to just take it next door to the Moon Tower.
Moon Tower. We've learned a lot about the brewery, and we've talked about your music and the music scene that's been developed here and how cool that is. So I think what we really need to know is sort of what are, I think the Dunedin Brewery has obviously transitioned and moved through the years quite nicely. And I have a hinkling that you probably have some plans in your head of where Dunedin Brewery goes for the future. So
Oh, yeah.
do you have any
100%.
you want to share any insight to
well, I mean,
where we go from
we're
here?
kind of sitting right across from it, but we've been working on something called the Moon Tower.
Okay.
So the Moon Tower is pretty much just it's an expansion next door. So we bought the shop next door, which is behind the audience.
Right.
And
It used to be
an auto shop, Mike and Gary's Auto
Clinic.
Clinic.
Reference that it's really right next door to the original Dunedin Brewery, but what's the physical address of Moon Tower? Or
Well,
where
so
will Moon Tower be?
Dunedin Brewery is 937 Douglas Avenue.
Okay.
The Moon Tower is 935 Douglas Avenue, downtown Dunedin.
Literally right next door.
Yeah.
It's adjacent. You can walk straight across.
You can bring beers from one spot to the other, bring food from one spot to the other. It's all one big hangout spot.
From what I take of you, this Moon Tower is going to be somewhat creative and eclectic.
I'd say creativity is going to be the core of it. There won't be a shortage of creativity whatsoever.
I've never known you to be short on creativity, so
you know me. I like to, if somebody swerves right, I swerve left.
For sure.
If they're going up, I'm going down. If they're going forward, I'm going backwards.
That's
so
awesome, man.
That's just I can't help myself.
Somebody's got to do it. Right?
So at the core at the Moon Tower is 100% art. Like we love music here. We love,
sure.
When we're doing our beers and stuff, we love graphic design and a lot of imagery with it.
Right.
Whether it be photography, video, or anything like that.
Right.
So this will allow us to have more space to do a lot more of that type of production.
Right.
So bigger stage. Instead of just beer, we're actually going to start producing sake. So we've got a sake room to start growing koji.
I do love beer, but I do love me some sake.
Well, in the state of Florida, sake is actually considered beer and wine.
Exactly.
It's brewed like beer, but marketed like wine. So we had to actually get both a beer and wine license to make sake.
A little about what it's going to look like inside. So I think it's really cool. So you want to share some of how that's going to look for people?
So I was telling you that nothing's going to be bolted down.
Right.
So besides the room where we're going to grow koji, the entire place is just an open building. So we've got a modular stage that we can put up. We can make it a full-size 16 by 12 stage, or we can do a 4 by 4. We could bring it outside. We could put it inside. The food and the bars are all on wheels. So the bar is just this, I mean, it's huge. It's a 25-foot bar, but it's all on casters, so we can move it around.
16 people have to move that?
Well, close to it. Probably 4 big guys,
Four big
you know?
guys.
4 big guys.
Yeah, okay.
Or 16 regular guys. But that whole thing can move inside, outside. It could be used for a wedding event. In January, we're using it for the Dunedin Film Festival,
Awesome.
Dunedin International Film Fest. So they'll
Awesome.
pipe and drape the whole thing, turn it into a theater. And yeah, kind of make it so that it is dynamic.
Right.
We can dress it up however we want for whatever event, occasion.
And true to your form, it allows total creativity. There's no stopping. There's no defined way that it will be. It's undefined. It can morph and do whatever it wants to be. You know, in 6 months or a year from now, it could look totally different than what it is.
If we get a bunch of Yelp reviews and they say that we don't like this about it, we'll just change it.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about the investment of building something out and then somebody not being like, oh, this could have worked better.
Or you just leave it the way it is, because who the heck listens to Yelp
Well, that
anyway?
too. That's the other thing we learned from the
Cheers to
anti-brewery. Yeah. Just drink a beer and forget about the criticism.
So Paul, welcome again. So is this amazing or what? I mean, you're drinking some beers at the original brewery and the OG in the state of Florida. What are you drinking?
This is their red. It's delicious. I
One
usually
of the,
get this
one
when
of
I
the
come
original
here.
recipes, by the way.
Yeah,
Amazing. Is it good?
I get it every time I come here. I venture out and try some of the others too. They're all good. IPAs, anything they make here is delicious.
Yes. I've had that before. Well,
this is a staple for me.
of course, they've had a lot of practice with that one. 1996, they dialed in on it by now. So
I think they
it's
got
pretty
it.
good. Yeah.
They got it right.
Yeah. So, by the way, that'd be a Wizard's pick for the place. Besides the apricot peach. So if you're not into fruits and you're into more stable traditionals, that's a really traditional beer. So these are 2 of the Wizard's picks. So this has been an amazing journey. It's an amazing place to come. The food. The beer. If you haven't even the food, we didn't even touch on the food. The fish tacos are out of the world. The marinated wings are beautiful. So it's the combination, like Michael Lynn said earlier, like it's the trifecta. It's the beer, it's the food.
Live music's really good too.
Yes, yeah.
They have really good bands coming
Paul
here.
may know a little bit about music, and he's really into just a smidge. He's got pictures of everybody. So, but it's amazing. It's an amazing place, the trifecta, and as Michael Lynn said, that's all you need to do. You can keep it in home, you can keep it in house. If you're doing it right, you're doing food right, you're doing beer right, you're doing the music scene right, your community is going to support you, and they've definitely been supported since 1996. They have really great projects coming up in the future. This is going to be a crazy, crazy thing for the next 20, 30 years with Michael Lynn. Okay. Cheers to you, Paul. Enjoy
Cheers
your red.
to you, buddy.
Cheers to you. And cheers to Michael Lynn, and cheers to the Dunedin Brewery, and cheers to you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and notify on all things Drinking with Wizard. Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date on all things Drinking with Wizard. See you next time. Cheers.